Okay, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how we create a grid such as this one in CSS. So for a grid like this with spaces in it um, and positioning, really what you want to do is create absolute positioning. As always, we tend to like to be able to create these divs within a wrapper so that if you were to add a header, the whole thing would move around nicely and you wouldn't lose your positioning. So this wrapper could go anywhere on the page. So the first thing we have is let me zoom in a bit. First thing we have is a wrapper. And if you've watched any absolute positioning tutorials, you know that's going to be set up at the top of our CSS to position relative. Let child elements. That is going to have no effect on the positioning of this element, except to say that the child elements will be relative to us. All right, the next thing we have in our HTML, for each child, we have a div. And that's sort of one of these blocks. And each block has a header, an image, and some text. And there's 4 of those. So our HTML is very simple. It's 4 divs with a header, an image, and some text in it. And of course, when we look at the actual layout, the headers move from middle to bottom to top, and the text and the images lay out in this pretty little grid. So the layout is very fancy. The HTML is very simple, and that's typically our goal when we're designing code, is that our HTML, very pure. This isn't cluttered with lots of extra unnecessary IDs. We just use plain old headers, images, and divs. I didn't have to put in an ID per element or anything like that. All the complicated logic is handled up in the CSS. So let me show you how that works. The top of the CSS has our easy stuff. Base font for the body, custom font, these were imported here, custom font for the headers, custom pixel sizes, remove the margins from the headers, center the headers. Make sure our links show up as light blue. All right, now our main thing is in a fixed pixel width, 1545 by 576, and I actually laid this out on a drawing program with a grid before to work out all these pixels. So that's our main guy. Its position is relative. This arrow says the direct child, so the direct children of main are all going to be positioned in an absolute way. You'll remember that we just had 4 children of main. So I'll put a comment here. Again, absolute positioning for 4 children of main. All right. All the h1 and the div inside our div should be black with white text. So this guy says any child of a div that's a child of main will get a background color black, color white. And now we begin the particular. First div, top 288 pixels, left 0 pixels. So this starts in the middle row. Each row is 288 pixels tall. So I'm always going to be working in multiples of 288. So there's the 288 pixels before the header. Makes sense? Okay. The H1 child gets a width and a height so that it fills up the whole thing. It's totally unnecessary. Lovely. The image child gets a width and a height, and it is positioned relative to the div it's inside of, 288 pixels down. So now we're at 288, we're at 574 total, but because it's inside of this div, it's 288 pixels down, so we're 288 for the whole div, and then 288 more for the image. So 288 to there, 288 now to the image. All right, now we begin second column of our layout. The second div child is going to move to the left 432 pixels, so our grid is 432 pixels wide. All right, the header goes down 2 rows, which is 574, or 288 times 2. It's set to the same width, and its height is set as we expect. It's positioned relative to the div, so we don't have to tell it to move over. All right, very nice. The image is that's needed. The image actually is just going up to the very top of the div. So if it's 288 pixels, the fact that it's the first inline element, now that we've moved that header out of the way, puts it right there. We could also have said position absolute top 0. You'll see that moves it. So that might be a little bit clearer, although wasn't strictly necessary. I'm going to put that there just for clarity's sake, so top 0, so it gets put at the top. Now the third element, if we go here, oops, start with the header again, like I did before. So the third column, the third header goes on top, so nothing special. We could say top 0 just for clarity's sake. Goes up top, gets its height. The third image goes right below it, 288 pixels down. Second row, absolute. All right, and the fourth child is all the way over to 1296, so this is 3 columns over. Third column. And this one was a little bit smaller in my design, 250 pixels wide. The height's 288 pixels. Again, I could say top 0 for clarity, it's the default. The header gets moved down 2 rows down, or 2 times 288, 574 pixels. Probably would have been easier if I'd worked in whole numbers. All right, now place the hidden text. So this is designed to have text that shows up on hover. So those divs, the first one is negative 288 because it's above the top of this div. The whole div is moved down, and then we're going to move it up, so negative 288 pixels. The second one is moved down 288 from the picture, top 288. The third one comes down 574, it's down 2. And then the last one is down 1 row in the middle, down 200 and 68, which is 1 column's worth. We set the default visibility to hidden. And then, actually, you know what makes more sense? Set opacity to 0. Nope, doesn't matter. Visibility hidden. Then when we hover, visibility is visible. You could do the same thing with display none and display block. In this case, it makes no difference because everything's done with absolute positioning. Display block or visibility hidden takes up space. So I guess, truth be told, that's probably the more accurate representation of what's happening here because it's taking up space, but it's not showing. And then visibility visible shows. So when we're all done, to show what this page looks like, we've laid out our grid. When you hover, you get the text, and it looks really designed because we put everything exactly in the spot it goes. You don't have to make a grid, of course. With absolute positioning, you can put things as precisely as you want. So if you'd like to make a circle or some sort of more organic shape, probably on top of a background image, you can do that as well.